Hello, good afternoon, or whatever time it is. Today, I'm going to be reviewing Love in the Time of Cholera by Gabriel García Márquez. Lately, I've been trying to read more diversely, and that includes both reading more female authors, which I need to do better on, and reading authors from places that aren't normally taught, I guess, and is part of the canon, which makes it pretty easy because almost exclusively I read stuff from America and Britain in most of my literature classes, occasionally something from France or Russia, but I decided that for right now I want to focus on Latin America and read different Latin American authors. So I've read one Garcia Marquez before, which was 100 Years of Solitude, which I thought was just okay. So I decided to read his other really famous novel, which is Love in the Time of Cholera. And I have to say, I like this one a lot more. Overall, it is I don't know if it's a story about love. I think is better than Love's Story. Because a lot of people I've seen have had issues with calling this a love story. Some people call it the greatest love story. And other people don't like the fact that it's called a love story because they think it's about obsession. Which is true. But I also think that's part of the magic realism that Garcia Marquez is known for. So let's talk about how it fits my 5 criteria. Okay, so we have the first one. High thoughts. Since it's considering love from a lot of different angles, I have to say love counts as a high thought, so we'll give it that. It examines love not just between two people. It examines it, I think, in a lot of ways, and some are really subtle, and some are negative things of love, and others are positive. And I'm not saying it's all necessarily what I think, but it's an examination, which I think is really interesting. Love permeates every page of this book. It's just sometimes in very subtle ways and not necessarily the love that we might think of first as being love. So high passion. I'll say it is passionate both because it deals with literally passion and because he weaves his I don't know what you'd say. He wants to talk about love, and he weaves that in this whole story. And so I'd say you can tell that he's interested and that he's curious and that he has ideas. So I'd say the passion's there. Rhetorical figures, structure. The structure is either something you're going to love or hate. It's kind of told to you in the same way that someone would just tell you a story, a really long story. It jumps all over the place in time. It follows a mostly linear narrative, but then will jump to tell you about an event that's kind of related to something that is in the plot that you're reading about now. And it sometimes will kind of go on a tangent for a while, but it's told that way on purpose. I've read in other places that Garcia Marquez, really with 100 Years of Solitude, but I think it kind of influences other writing, that he based it on the way his grandmother would tell him stories when he was younger. So that he kind of adopted that in his writing, which you're either going to love or hate. I liked it. I wouldn't say it was great, and sometimes it feels like you're reading a lot of pages, and you get very brief descriptions. A lot happens. Which is why I'm not going to try to bother to explain the plot to you, because it's really convoluted. It's both super simple and extremely convoluted at the same time, so I'll let you find that out on your own. Noble diction. I'd say I enjoy the structure, and I enjoy the way Garcia Marquez writes. He has a way of writing stuff that's seemingly really simple, but also very beautiful and has its own beauty. I'd say his sentence structure is interesting and entertaining, and I'd also say that he has some really great thoughts and articulates them in a great way. So this book meets all 5 requirements. I'm going to knock it a little bit on form because it's not great, and a little bit on noble diction, or elevated composition, I should say. Because due to the style of writing, a lot of it's kind of simplistic. The other area, which is a content area, which can get a little dangerous because that's so subjective, but I feel like I'm kind of in the right here. But anyway, there is a part in the last third of the novel, maybe even further, the last fourth maybe, that is kind of creepy, where Florentino, who's like the main dude, gains legal guardianship over a young girl who's like 14 and starts having a relationship with her. And he knowingly describes her as a child and talks about how she still has braces and the scrapes of elementary school playgrounds on her knees. Which was, it's hard to overlook that and let it go. And then he ends up causing her to kill herself. And he honestly kind of doesn't care. So that was a little rough, just because of the way it was addressed, not because it was in there. But there's really no consequence, nor is it really shown to be that bad that he did that. It's very complicated in the cause and effect from that relationship. So all in all, I would say it was interesting to read. It was definitely a very different style than a lot of what I've read in the West, or, well, they are Western, but I'm going to say North America and British literature. Not even North American, U.S. and British literature. It's a very different style. I would say it's going to get a solid, I would probably give it a 4 out of 5 had it not had those content issues. Not just because it's in there, mind you, but again, also the way in which they're dealt with. So I'm going to knock it down to a 3. Because there's still a lot of good stuff, and that's a small part of the story. So yeah, it's a very interesting read. If you're interested in Gabriel García Márquez, I would suggest starting with this as opposed to 100 Years in Solitude, and then go to 100 Years in Solitude, if you liked this. Or you could do it the way I did it, where is I read 100 Years of Solitude, and you went, that was okay. And you'll read this, and you'll like him a lot more. I kind of want to read his other stuff. He was kind of prolific, and I'm looking forward to getting more into it. I think I'll run into a lot of same issues, though. So we'll see. Anyway, as always, have a good day. Enjoy reading. Peace.